All right, so I'm going to clear the air about something that appears to be on everybody's mind right now in Los Angeles, and it comes down to this new measure ULA and the taxes that are being imposed as of April 2023 on properties over $5 million, and then an additional tax on properties over $10 million. So the way that measure ULA is set to work is the purchaser of a property over $5 million up to $10 million will be subject to a 4% tax on that property, and properties over $10 million will be subject to a 5.5% tax. This relates to both residential and commercial properties. So I wanted to clear the air on something because having experience in two different countries in terms of selling real estate, you kind of see where cities and provinces and states and everything, how it all works and how much of an impact these taxes actually have on buyers and sellers. So I'm going to put this into perspective for you just so it clears the air and eliminates some of the fear that a lot of people have right now with respect to this tax. So as an example, measure ULA, when it comes into effect in April, on a $5 million property, which means you'd be subject to a 4% tax on that $5 million property. That tax would be $200,000. So you buy a $5 million property, you end up paying $5.2 million because $200,000 is going to be set out in taxes. In comparison, that same $5 million property in Ontario, specifically in Toronto, where I sold real estate, there's two taxes right now. One of those taxes is the Ontario Land Transfer Tax, and that operates on a tiered system that starts from 0 to 55,000, and it kind of works its way up to whatever price point you're at. And then there's also a Toronto Land Transfer Tax. So there's two taxes, those two taxes. Pretty much they're equal. So that same property of $5 million bought in Toronto would be subject to $222,000, or actually $222,950 is a specific amount in land transfer taxes. That same $5 million property would be subject to. So basically, Toronto purchasers of the same property would be paying $22,950 more than what you're going to have to pay here in Los Angeles on the same $5 million property. In addition to that, if you are a foreign buyer or a non-resident of Ontario and you're buying the same $5 million property in Toronto, you'd be subject to what's called a non-resident speculation tax. That tax, as of late last year, is now 25%. So on a $5 million property, you not only have your $222,950 you pay in land transfer tax, but you're paying an additional $1.25 million if you're a non-resident or foreign buyer, which is, I believe, unprecedented in terms of real estate all over the world. In addition to that, on the sell side, we're here in Los Angeles, sellers pay their commissions and they call it a day. In Toronto, commissions are subject to the harmonized sales tax, which is the HST, which is 13%. So in a $5 million home, in addition to the commissions being paid, every seller is going to be subject to $32,500 more in tax on the listing commissions. So when people sit around here in LA and they worry about these taxes, they have to understand that these taxes are not abnormal in many other places in the world. Specifically, in this case, we're talking about Toronto, but there are many places like Australia and the UK where there are similar taxes that are imposed on purchases, especially in the upper echelons in price. So I hope this clears the air on things. The new taxes that are being imposed by ULA are not something we should be super concerned with. If you look at what the average buyer is able to buy in LA, most of us, meaning 98%, 99%, are not even going to be subject to this tax. So it's not really something to be concerned with. But if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. The Toronto real estate market has been one of the strongest, most resilient markets in the world up until about 6 to 8 months ago, when things started to teeter after probably 20 plus years of overall appreciation. So these taxes have been around for quite a while, with the exception of the new non-resident speculation tax. It was actually at 15% for a while and then increased to 25%. But Toronto has been very resilient. I'm sure LA will be just as resilient when it comes to these taxes. So it's really not something we have to be too concerned with.